Good morning, Cardinals fans, and welcome into the Monday Morning Scramble. And as you can see, we had to take things in studio today because of the rain, which really kind of just exemplifies our feelings this morning after 6 straight losses for the Cardinals. Another tough loss against the Steelers on Sunday, 23-17. Lisa Matthews, Jody Jackson, Kyle Odegard, Zach Galia here with you. Now, guys, just what's the taste in your mouth this morning after another close, disappointing loss,
bitter.
I would say. Bitter?
Bitter would be, that's where I'm at.
I think we're getting bitter now.
Yeah.
Last week disgusted, this week bitter.
Bitter,
yeah. I mean, it was a close game, especially after David Johnson scored that touchdown. I believe you're sitting at 20-17, and you're thinking, all right, you're right here. There were some good moments, but unfortunately, it looked like Kyler Murray was harassed a lot of the day, forced him to throw 3 picks. The last one, sometimes that last one you kind of don't want to count that, but it was 3 on paper, 2 in the red zone, which hurts. And, I think the defense did do some good things. You had the special teams touchdown given up. So, again, on paper, 16 points given up by the defense, which you'd have to say was an improvement.
Definitely felt like a game of missed chances. You mentioned the 2 in the red zone, the punt return touchdown. It seemed like this was a game that could have gone either way. These teams were pretty evenly matched up, and it was close throughout, especially once the Cardinals got 10-10. It seemed like they were starting to take a little bit of control, and then a big play here, a big play there. The big one to me felt like the interception by Joe Hayden in the third quarter when the Cardinals were driving pretty well, and Joe Hayden made a great play realizing he was going to dump it off to Chase Edmonds. He came and got that ball, and that kept the Cardinals behind. It seemed like they were chasing the full game. If they scored a touchdown on that drive, they would have been ahead and feeling better, but Joe Hayden just made a really nice play.
And it looked a lot like a lot of the games this season. I mean, last week was something that we like to call an anomaly. Anomaly? Can I say the word correctly? Anomaly.
The good news was that it was.
Yeah.
We all kind of,
yes.
I think we were all, I was not too nervous about that, but you're kind of thinking, okay, are they shutting it down? That's, again, I know you guys talked a lot here in-house about that would be human nature maybe, but the good news is that wasn't the case, and I think we were all pretty sure it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of fight in the team, which is great, and it just, the bitterness comes from it constantly being kind of this same feeling every Monday. It's you fight, you claw, you almost get back, and then you don't quite get there. So I think it's great to see that they continue to fight and keep battling, and it's a young team, so you're going to have to grow and finish those opportunities, but it's just getting tough each and every Monday of like, we almost got there, but we didn't get there.
And that's exactly what AQ Shipley talked about in the locker room post-game. Just it takes a toll being so close and kind of losing the same way. Is it the clutch gene that's missing with this team? Is just the young? What is it? What can you pinpoint at this point?
I think it's just random. I mean, there were close games that they won earlier in the season, and this is a game that they didn't. But to me, I feel like the big play in this game was that punt return touchdown, which doesn't really have to do with clutch because that was early on. And when you're down by 6 points in the fourth quarter, you're going to lose that game more often than not. And to say they weren't clutch because they didn't drive on that they had to go 75 yards to score a touchdown, and obviously that drive didn't work out, and they were sacked a couple times. But I feel like this was a game, if you play it 100 times, the Cardinals probably win half of them because these teams are so evenly matched, and it just didn't work out. But I don't feel like there's anything wrong deep down with this team in close games. I just think sometimes you win some of those and sometimes you lose them.
And they're relying on rookies a lot.
Yes.
And you see, I've talked about it a little bit on the postgame. Byron Murphy is struggling now. And this is, again, we're into December. Kyler Murray has had great moments, but he's struggled at times too. And you just, you're relying heavily on guys that it's their first year in the league. I think you're right when you say random. I think it's kind of one thing or the other. I mean, again, it's been a ridiculously long time since the team had given up a punt return for a touchdown. So, again, you don't see that happening. It's not a problem. It's not a trend. It's not something disturbing. It's just something that happened. Deontay Johnson had a heck of a game. I don't think any of us really knew the young man out of Toledo until yesterday. So I think that's the one thing when you say evenly matched, they were without Smith-Schuster. They were without Connor. They have had Hodges at quarterback. And so you saw this again. It was a game that you say, well, this is a game that we could take. It's at home, and you hope so. Now they have 3 games left, and hopefully the final one at home can be a win because, again, that, Zach, what you talked about, that Monday morning, you want that reward. You want kind of that validation for your hard work. And I think they are working hard and they're learning from all of this. It's just not showing up as a victory.
Yeah, I think that's what bites for me in this game, looking at Kyler Murray and just the season that he's had. I mean, there was Rookie of the Year talks just a few weeks back. You come back from the bye, and here's 2 games. Obviously, with the Rams, not his best performance, a pick 6, and you come back in this game. I really don't count that 3rd interception, but 2 in the red zone, and you just don't want to see him regress these last 3 games. You want a good taste in your mouth, just ending this season with high hopes in 2020 because you know the player he is and what's capable of him going forward with the future of this team. So I'm just hoping that these last 3 games they can find that confidence again, because you don't want to have again this taste in your mouth heading into the new season.
Yeah, and I mean, as odd as it might sound, I'm not necessarily worried about Kyler's play in the last couple of games, because it seems as if not necessarily the training wheels are taken off, but you can tell he's taking more chances now, and instead of playing it more conservative, not turning the ball over. Obviously, you don't want to see the interceptions, but I like that he's taking chances. I like that he's trying to make those big plays, and it's hopefully, just like you said, it doesn't affect his confidence or kind of his mindset. But I like what I've seen thus far from him.
And the pressure has been there these last 2 games, and that's tough on any quarterback, especially a rookie, when he's trying to figure things out mentally, what the coverage is doing against these guys that are running routes, and then you've got 1 or 2 or 3 guys in your face rushing at you. And he's a fast guy, and he's able to get out a lot of trouble a lot of times, but Pittsburgh did a great job of containing him. When he tried to get out on the edge, he wasn't able to go anywhere. I think they had a really good game plan to keep him contained in the pocket, and it's a learning experience for Kyler Murray. I agree with you. Like, there's no huge issue with what he's doing. It's been a couple of bad games, and we still see the ceiling that he has and how good he can be, but certainly these are learning lessons for a guy like Kyler.
Yeah, Jody, a very good Steelers defense. Going into this game, we knew it was going to be a challenge.
And it looked like that back there, and guys were coming free. And again, you have to, I'm sure they're doing that today, breaking down what exactly went wrong, because at times it looked like, you don't know, was it Kyler not seeing something? Were the guys not getting open? Was it a combination? Because it seems like lately, and against some of these better fronts, against some of the other teams that don't have as strong a front, Kyler was able to run and make something happen. That's now the last couple of weeks he's trying to get out, he's trying to escape, and it's not really working. He's either being contained or being chased down. So, again, these are things they have to tweak, and it also, has to do with the weapons, and they have some weapons. It's a matter of developing more of them, I think, into the game plan.
Yeah. Well, speaking of some weapons, let's get into our rise and shine players of the game. Just like many of these losses, there were still some bright moments to talk about. So who wants to go first and reveal their rise and shine player?
Go ahead, Zach.
Me? All right. I got my guy, Chandler Jones. There we go.
Is the money sign there? Nope.
No money sign. No. Because it's expected from Chandler
Not
now.
his time.
So just another great game. I think one of the most underrated plays of the entire game was him breaking up that screen pass late in the fourth quarter, stop the clock. Mm-hmm. But again, I mean, the guy's an absolute game breaker. Any team in the league would love to have someone like him. And, it's crazy. A graphic that Sunday Night Football, not to call them out, but to completely call them out, talking about like the defensive player of the year debate is hot, and Chandler somehow didn't make the cut of like the top 9 people in the league. Yes. So it's crazy to think. I mean, he's just some stats here. 14 sacks this year. That gives him 55 in 61 games in Arizona, which is insane. He also joined Curtis Greer as the only players in Cardinals history with 14-plus sacks in multiple seasons. So just someone that you can build a defense around, and every week he proves he's one of the best to do it.
Yeah, he needs a little more respect out
there.
He
does.
I mean, I know it. I mean, it shouldn't take a winning team to get the spotlight and the highlight like that, but come on, give him some love.
Give him
something. 6 forced fumbles too. He's making that an
Yes.
art where he gets around the quarterback, and it seems like the ball's always coming out if he has a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Impressive. And then his windmill. I love it.
Yeah.
All right, Kyle, who you got?
All right, I'm going a little bit of a unknown here. Do this right. Tanner Vallejo, linebacker who was with the Cardinals in the preseason, throughout the offseason, didn't make the team originally and went to Washington, and the Cardinals got him back a few weeks ago on the practice squad and then brought him up to the active roster. And he was active, but he's a special teams ace, so you kind of thought, hey, he's just going to play special teams, but he went in there on defense in certain packages and really had an impact. 5 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, and very limited work. So the Cardinals inside linebackers beyond Jordan Hicks have struggled a little bit this year, and maybe this is the type of player where he can try to make an impact down the stretch. Right now, it's a lot of looking toward 2020 and figuring out who you want to keep and who's going to be here next year. And Tanner Vallejo is a guy who made an impact in his first game where they allowed him to give it a try. I'd assume he's going to get a chance to do things in these last few games, and if he does well, then you'll probably keep him around and he'll try to make the roster again next season.
Yeah, a great opportunity for him. And Jody, you had him on the post-game show. What was his reaction following?
Yeah, he was excited, to be able to be in the mix this week. And then, he was with the Browns last year. He played in 13 games, 1 start last year. So I kind of joked with him, is there a lot going? He goes, yeah, I know a lot of those guys. So, he'd like to contribute to a win, of course, against the Browns coming up this week. So good to see some new contributors. Mm-hmm. And then we have a guy that we've been relying on all season long, really. He was injured for a bit, but Christian Kirk back and had that big 31-yard catch, had a number of plays in this game that were important to the good that we saw on offense. There it is, the beautiful throw, the catch. He just runs such a great route. He's precise, he's quick. And you can count on him. He's the guy that Kyler Murray trusts, and that showed up again yesterday. And really, he's been doing it all year long. I think just with this team, you want to find more weapons. That's the key. But for Christian, he's got to be pleased. I know a couple times it seemed like they went to the well with Christian a couple times on some plays that didn't work out. But, it's hard not to, because that if you go with the short passing game and he gets the ball in his hands, he can make something happen. So great job, Christian Kirk, yesterday, despite the loss.
It's definitely fun to see the connection between the two of them. Obviously, they played together freshman year of college, and then full circle for them to come together and just see how this is flourishing for hopefully years to come for them. All right, so my rise and shine player, dun-dun-dun. I'm just going to do the main cam. David Johnson. You can't see it, can you? Nope. There
and
it
have
is.
The best
David.
writing /
You wrote it nice
bold,
and big.
Yeah,
you guys,
bold,
I'm blind, so I can't see nothing. But as long as y'all can see it. Okay, David Johnson obviously didn't put up the big numbers, but his 24-yard touchdown here just to make it 20-17 late in the game. I mean, it was great to see him be utilized in the passing game. We know that the threat that he can be in the mismatch. I watched him line up wide to the right, and I was like, okay, it's going to him, it's going to be him, here's your moment, and it happened. And just to see him also in some of the run game, obviously just looked a little different, fighting a little different, a lot more hungry. So I'm excited to see just how they plan to utilize him more and more these final 3 games, because you look at this running backs room, obviously Chase Edmonds, Drake leading the way right now, but you know what you have in David Johnson, and we talk a lot about playmakers. Well, he's someone that can be utilized in the receiving game. If you look at who's the number 3 receiver on this team, very well could be David Johnson with the numbers he can put up.
It's interesting having him all the way outside, like you said, on that play. And there were a lot of times he came in the game and went immediately just to a wide receiver spot, and they are definitely still trying to figure out where he fits in with Kenyon Drake. But if David Johnson plays like that, I feel like he's going to earn himself playing time, whether it's 2 backs, whether he's alone, or whether he's split out wide.
Absolutely. We saw some of those 3-back sets, too. I was like, what's going on
and
here?
None of us picked Kenyon Drake, but I think we'd all agree he was pretty important yesterday, running the ball hard, a couple catches as well. So it's interesting. It's interesting to see what will happen next year, because you kind of like what you see from Drake, and he's brought a different element. And you have Chase Edmonds, you kind of know what you have there. And then David has had this up and down season, but you know how valuable he can be in both the passing game and he had a nice run yesterday in particular. I remember the 8-yard run. I think he had a couple other touches in the running game. So, I think as this offense evolves, it'll become more clear.
Yeah,
too.
You were talking about just playmakers and finding those guys to fit this offense to be. I mean, we have Hakeem Butler, who obviously we haven't seen all season long, correct?
Yeah.
And Andy Isabella, who's still developing. So to be able to have this offense run full arsenal, I mean, we haven't even seen the potential yet, really, because of the playmakers that are not on the field. So
yeah, I think it was kind of clear that there were some times when Kyler Murray was waiting in the pocket and looking around, and some of those guys just weren't getting open against a very good Steelers defense. So like we mentioned earlier, there was the pressure that got there pretty fast. Some of those wide receivers didn't get open, and some was on Kyler. So they did make some plays at times offensively. It wasn't perfect, but you're right, Lisa. If those players can grow and the young guys, if they take a step, if Kyler Murray takes a step, it's already probably an average offense. And then all of a sudden next year you feel like it can get really good.
I feel like the line, has played better than they did against the Steelers and obviously against the Rams last week. So, and I believe there was kind of an illness going this week. So you don't know. Byron Murphy, I also mentioned him earlier, and he was fighting a bit of an injury. So guys are fighting some things. You don't know how healthy they were. But this game, it stands out that you can make a couple more plays on offense. And we do expect more from the offense, right? I mean, we don't expect as much from the defense, frankly, because as a unit, even though Chandler's played great, Jordan Hicks has had a good season. I mean, some guys have played well, Budda Baker, but we just expect more, I think, from the offense. And unfortunately, the way I think it was disturbing a little bit to see Kyler kind of running around back there, kind of know where to go. And it would be a combo. I really think it is a combination of a bunch of things. The line play, the guys getting open, maybe, developing more weapons as we go forward. But then also Kyler, I'm sure, and he took it on himself yesterday. I liked what he said, going back to our earlier conversation. I liked what he said about the interceptions and that he took that on and he said we should have won the game. But he also, I think there was a line where he basically said, I'm not spooked by that. So, when you worry about regression or you worry about, because we've seen some games where he's really just been in total control. He's put up huge numbers. Yeah. I mean, we were sitting here most Mondays for the first half of the season talking about all the numbers he's been putting up. And he put up 2 touchdowns yesterday too, but he's not putting up, that 300 plus yardage right now. But he knows, and it seems like he's not affected by this. Is he down by it a little bit? Is he disgusted like last week? He was, and this week I'm sure it's not that disgusted feeling, but a little bit encouraged, a little bit frustrated. But the good news is I don't think he's the type of guy that is going to regress from some adversity from this season, because he's had a fair amount of adversity.
Yeah, and it's something that he's obviously not used to before this. So that was a big thing going into this season. How is he going to deal with the losing? I think he takes ownership, and just moving forward, that's going to be a bright spot as hopefully more wins in 2020 to come. All right, let's bring home the bacon here, guys. 3 more games left. Let's wrap it up here.
Biggest thing, since we're talking about Kyler so much, he set a new franchise record for passing touchdowns by a rookie QB. So, that Steelers defense is nothing to shake your head at. I mean, that they could be sporting at least 4 or 5 Pro Bowlers on that side. So, it was definitely a battle, but it's nice to see K1 continue to grow.
Absolutely. All right, Cardinals fans, next up the Browns. But for now, you guys enjoy the rest of your week. We will see you next Monday morning.